So if you found this video today, it's probably because you've had a problem with your BMW 430i suddenly losing all of its coolant. My wife was driving the car home and suddenly it lost all of its coolant. The only way that she knew is the car told her the engine was overheating, even though the temperature gauge showed it being fine. For me, this 4-year-old car lost its coolant through a hose right here, if you can see it. It's a hose that comes off of the expansion tank or the reservoir tank on the left side of the car. It took me about 2 hours to find the leak. The way that I discovered that this line was broken was after searching around on the bottom of the car and on the side. I felt this line, and it was not broken up at the top at the time, but it was loose on the bottom, and as soon as I touched it, the top also fell apart. So this hose, or plastic tube, goes to the cylinder head, and it goes to the cylinder head back here underneath and beside the alternator. You can see the alternator is here. This is the intake throttle body. This hose I've already loosened and gotten out of the way so I could get to it this better. I fought for hours trying to get behind it, but the only way to get to it is to come in from the front. There's a bracket that I've already taken off. This bracket normally is in this position. It strengthens the throttle body, supports it, and it would be covering your access hole right there. Without that bracket out of the way, it is impossible to get this fitting off. So the bracket comes off. It's got 6mm Torx head screws or bolts. There's 2 of them that go on the front, and then there is a 8mm Torx head bolt that holds it on, holds the throttle body on right here. This is the tube that had failed. That part number has been superseded. This old part number is 17-12-8-677-244. This tube has fittings that are heat shrunk on. It comes with the 2 fittings on the ends that are clearly not here now because they broke off. If you look inside the fittings that go on the end, this material that they use to make the fitting is something I can chip away at with my fingernail. So whatever material they chose for this plastic is soluble by European style coolant. These fittings, to get them off, I use these surgical tweezers. Just pull up on the fitting, or on this little snap ring. Once you pull on that snap ring, it pops right off. This other one was more tricky because when this is on, the snap ring is facing this direction, attached to the engine, and the only way to get to the snap ring is from the front. Once I got that, I was able to use some long needle nose pliers and pull on it, and then it popped right off. So this is looking at the top of the engine. If you can see, down in that hole is where the nipple is for this line to connect to it. So you have to fish the line back down this hole. You can see the line sitting there, back behind the alternator, and around to that nipple. So not super easy, but not too bad once you get a feel for what's behind it. And here you can just barely see that the fitting is on top of the nipple. I haven't pushed it down yet. The other side, you can see the hose or the line going back down under the car. I've got this top hose out of its clamp because it will be on top of the line. This fitting is sitting ready to be punched down. All that you do is just push it on and it clips. The other side will be the same thing, but I don't have enough hands to do that. So this is the bracket that will make this job, will make or break this job. It goes from the throttle body to the head. It's got two 6mm Torx head screws or bolts and one 8mm Torx head bolt. It has two wire bundles connected to it. One is this on top. Its end with just a push type connector, if you've seen those on the body of the car. And then there's another behind here, and then in front you have another coolant line. If you can see my tool pointing to it, that's attached to the side, and it has got a little clip on top on it that is push in on the top and then push it on the bottom and you can pull it out. I also moved this coolant line from the electric water pump out of the way just to be able to get access to those bolts easier. It's the same type of connection as the rest of them that are part of this repair. And I also moved the cover for the front of the engine out of the way. And that's that cover I was telling you about. This is how it sits when it is on the engine correctly. I'm not really sure why it's there, except that BMW is obsessed with making this engine quieter. It's covered in foam all the way around. Really interesting, but it's held on in several different places with these clips. The way these clips work, they spread out when you push the plunger in. So to get it off, you use a tool kind of like this to get behind the head of the clip and pull it out, and then they come right out. And put it back, you stick it in all the way, push the plunger, and now the clip is in. You can see I've connected this line again. I can only suspect that that line is going to cause problems. It's the same type of shrunk down plastic tube. Hopefully that doesn't happen anytime soon. Alright, so it's all buttoned up. Took about a gallon and a quarter of European style antifreeze. That's the blue coolant. You do want to use the blue coolant because this particular car, there is no way to see through the reservoir, so you have to look down inside, and if it's not blue, it'd be kind of hard to see with our American style yellow coolant to see what the level is. You can see there's a max and min down in here. Don't ever open it